What's up? What's up? What's up? I hope everyone's having a great day, a great, amazing day. I feel amazing. My name is Dr. A, and welcome to the Deets with Dr. A. And I'm so excited because this is our pilot episode. We are starting next Monday, every Monday, 6 p.m. So I chose to have one of our team members here at the Learning Liaisons, who you'll meet in a second, Sarah Hall, become our guinea pig here. So she's probably going to hate me when it's all over. I don't mind embarrassing myself. We are going to make blunders, hopefully not too many mistakes, but we wanted to try this out, this new technology with you guys. And I'm so happy that we have our special guest. All right. So real quick in the comment box, I want everyone just to throw a quick hello in there. We didn't really advertise this first session too much. So hopefully we have some people out there watching. So just let us know you're alive and watching us. Throw a quick hello in the box. Let us know where you're participating from. I'll give you guys a couple of seconds to do that. While you're doing that, I'm going to go and bring on my main man here, Matt. Matt, our little video producer in the back end. Let's say hi to Matt. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
What's going on, guys?
All right.
Welcome.
So, Matt, welcome. Yeah. So Matt's here to help out. He'll be popping in and out. He is the nuts and bolts of this operation. He's here to make sure that I don't make too much of a fool of myself. So, well, we'll try, right? We can't. You know me too well. I like to make a fool of myself. So, hey, Sofia, I do apologize if I mispronounced that name. All right, so we'll talk to you soon here, Matt. So what we're going to do right now is we are going to bring on, let's see, once I said we are working on this technology here for you. We're trying out all kinds of cool stuff here for you. All right, so what we're going to do here right now is I'm going to bring on our special guest, Sarah Hall. Hey, Sarah.
Hey, Dr. A. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Hey, we're excited to have you here. So why don't you introduce yourself? Tell all of our viewers a little bit about yourself.
All right. So like Dr. A said, my name is Sarah Hall, and I am currently in the classroom. So I teach first grade at a Title I school in Seminole County in Central Florida. I have been in the classroom I just finished up my 17th year. Which is crazy. I was just having a conversation with someone last night who's only been teaching a couple of years, and he said, it's so hard. The kids I taught are now in third grade for my first year. And I said, mine are in college. So it's definitely a different perspective. But anyways, I am the 2020 Teacher of the Year from Seminole County Public Schools. So it's been a really exciting year being able to help represent the teachers in my district. I also adjunct at UCF, so I've been teaching in the elementary ed, right? Dr. A's and I are big UCF fans.
Go Knights.
Charge on.
We're not going to say where you went to school also, too. We'll keep that.
I'll keep that we'll keep that one on the DL. But but yeah, so I've been teaching at UCF for 6 years in the elementary ed program and love that. It's really fun teaching 5- and 6-year-olds during the day, and then 20-year-olds and up at night. So it's been a fun ride with them too. And I have my master's in reading education, my undergrad in elementary education, and literacy is definitely my thing. So I if you are not new to the Learning Liaisons, then you know me as the reading specialist for the Learning Liaisons, and it's just been wonderful to be a part of that team as well. So thanks for having me.
I'm sure we got a lot of teachers here probably watching from our Facebook groups and our page. Just happened to see this pop up. So, you know, Sarah came on the team in March, and she's been doing the reading K through 12 workshops for us, and our GK reading, for all you guys who don't know that. That's a certification exam that all the teachers here in the state of Florida have to take. So she focuses on the reading component of that. So we're real happy to have her here. So the title of this episode, we're going to talk about obviously the CDC guidelines and how this is all affecting COVID-19. And now that most of the schools, or all the schools, I should say, Sarah said, how many boxes of stuff did you bring home today?
Not boxes. I brought home 3 carloads of stuff. I don't even know how many boxes, but 3 carloads of stuff from my classroom today. So definitely, I mean, post-planning, those days are busy days. So all day long, what was getting me through it, though, was knowing that I got to come and hang out with you guys tonight, though.
Very good. And I saw Lisa said she has some of her past students' children in her classroom. You know, I'm not going to say how old we are, how old I am, or you don't need to say how old you are, but you know, I've been teaching since 2002 with my master's, and I taught 10 years high school, 10 years middle school, and taught at UCF since 2009. And I never thought I was old until in one of my courses at UCF, one of the women came up. She was probably, I would say, and no offense if she's watching, probably gonna remember this. I would say maybe in her 40s, I would say. And she came up to me at the end of the first class and she introduced herself and she said that I taught her son in middle school. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah. And then I see all my students graduating and they're in college now. Some of them are done. So yeah,
wild.
It's exciting, but also makes me feel how old I really am. So
yeah,
on to more.
I remember when it was my first semester teaching at UCF. I was telling my best friend, who's also a teacher in Sarasota County, I was telling her that, oh, this makes me feel so young again. I feel, so reminiscent being back in college. And she was my college roommate. So I was talking to her about that. And I said, Heidi, do you think when I'm walking around campus, people are going to think I'm this, student here, a young student? And she was like, Sarah, nobody's going to think you're a young student there. Let me just back myself up. But anyways, I love it. It's refreshing. And, and I love too, the older students who are doing a career change. It's a fun group to be around.
Awesome. So what we're going to do here is, like I said, this is our pilot episode. So we're testing this stuff out here. So we're going to have a lot of conversational questions, and we're definitely looking for people in the comments to share their thoughts. I'm seeing a lot of guys put comments in there. Welcome. If you're just joining us, I'm seeing the numbers increase. So this is awesome. We're going to have some discussion questions, and we're going to talk about some things that the CDC posted as recommended guidelines for opening up at school. So this is going to be an educational discussion. We're not going to argue either way, just talk about the reality of the situation. And during the session, as we get into the discussions, we're going to test out something where we're going to give you guys the opportunity, hopefully at least one person is brave enough to do it, to join us on the video. It's a click of a button to pop in our classroom to give you thoughts depending on what we're talking about. We're just going to see how the flow goes. So we're going to start off easy. So I got a question on the screen, and me and Sarah will talk about it. And then we also urge you as a participant to throw your comments and questions in the box as well. So what we're going to do is let's just start the conversation. So what do you think, Sarah? What's the one thing that you've learned now that that school's closed down and you packed up your room from this whole COVID-19 situation as it refers to school and education?
It's been interesting that through all of this, I've been teaching just like a lot of the people that are watching and moving to this platform of digital learning, which I had never done before. But I think that one thing that I learned, which I'm so proud of, is the fact that teachers were able to really seamlessly transition into teaching in an entirely new way, while allowing our students to really showcase their independence and how they were already able to work independently digitally. So with everything I've been doing every day, up until we moved to a digital platform, they were kind of set. And then also I think the mindset of, and just a little twist of a clarification on what a lot of people were saying is, schools are closed. And one thing that I've been really intentional to kind of add to that narrative is schools weren't closed, campuses were closed, but teachers were still teaching and students were still learning. And I think that slight shift of mindset was huge, because even though I'm here at my house and my students are in their homes, it helped me feel a little more connected, having that mindset. What about you, Dr. A?
I would say I'm not in the classroom currently, but working with teachers online in our FTC and praxis workshops, things like that, and being immersed in thousands of teachers on our YouTube channel and our Facebook groups, I'm seeing all the comments and concerns going across the board. And I've learned, and I've seen some of these comments here. We got Mary here that teachers are superheroes during this transition. And what I notice is, and big ups to all the first responders, everyone on the front line. If you notice all those commercials and everything, and I noticed over the last couple of months, and it didn't happen at the beginning, but I don't know if you noticed this, but I noticed the commercials started to do first responders and teachers. So it took them a little long to get the hang there, but definitely because you guys are watching, whether you're watching the recording or watching us here live. I mean, this is a big transition. Yeah, there are people out there that are tech savvy and they have experience doing this. But let's face it, most people don't have the experience of teaching online. Plus, I've witnessed so many mixed reviews, whether people calling me and talking about it on the phone just candidly, or in the Facebook, or any comments and the things that I see on the news, that you've got a mix. You've got teachers that love it and feel like they're more in touch with their students, even though they don't physically see them. But then you also have people that really didn't like it, and they felt like the school district didn't handle it the best way. And that's obviously a whole nother conversation. We can't control that. But I see mixed views. And overall, if you ask me which side does it lean more, I don't know. I honestly, I mean, you're in the school. I mean, what do you think? Do you think overall most teachers were happy with it, and thought maybe because they were thrown in it, the reality of it is you just got to work at it and it took some time? Or do you think there are more people that just dead against it and just thought this was horrible, we should have just shut schools down?
I think that teachers overall are kind of famous for that positive mindset, right? We're like, we got to do it for the kids, and the kids need us. And it's to a fault, honestly, at some points, that we self-sacrifice for others, in good and, negative ways. I mean, yes, we are in this for the kids, and we give up our personal time. We give up maybe a higher salary or whatever it is, because we are passionate about what we're doing. And, I think that a lot of teachers are, we're just kind of ready to find the positive in it, which, I think helps. And then also I saw, can we pull in Elisa's comment? Hers says way too many students.
I like this one. Wait, hold on. I like this Lisa's first comment, Elisa. We asked, what'd you learn during this COVID situation? Awesome, Lisa. I love your candid response that she's neurotic, right? But she did. We'll throw up our other one. I know you referred to this one.
Yeah, I love it too. But yeah, where she's saying way too many students didn't participate or turn assignments in. And you know what? Something that I saw. So I have, and I think I was even telling you about this one day, Dr. A, but I have students, so 6-year-olds in my first grade class, who are being raised by their grandparents. Several students in my class being raised by grandparents. And one student in my class this year is being raised by her great grandparents. Yes. So imagine, and caregivers told me they're in their mid 80s. So imagine really, I am far from mid 80s. I'm not close to 20 anymore, but I'm far from mid 80s. But I had to have my nieces teach me how to use Snapchat, So imagine mid 80s trying to navigate Google Classroom and Google Meet and all these things. So, I think for me, Elisa, that's a great point. And, a lot of times I think it's what's going on with the caregivers, what's going on in the home situation, and did they have that support? And you're right, it is sad that a lot of the kids didn't have the support to really be successful in this.
Yeah, and it's just, and it's something that, and I'm going to be candid and transparent here. You have to understand that, and this too, that no one knows what was going on because it's never happened before. That's obvious to say. So when you asking a school district or a whole country or states to transition to this, it's not going to happen like that. Obviously it's not something that's happened overnight. There's going to be hiccups. Yes. Has it been going on for a long time? Yes. Should people pick up the slack and certain things happen when they didn't? Of course. But there are a lot of great stories I see on the news from around the country. You have the opportunity to get celebrated, right? I'm gonna put you up, rock star on there. Who called you a couple weeks ago? Can you tell everybody who called you?
It was you, right? Wasn't it you that? I did. I got a really exciting call from the United States Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, and that was enormous. So she called me to say Happy Teacher Appreciation, and that the Florida Department of Education had told her that I've been doing my part to pave the way in digital learning across Florida, which was a huge compliment. It was really exciting.
I'm so excited that we met, and you're on the team here, and you're doing amazing things, and I can't wait to see what happens in the future. And I put Camille from Polk County says many students didn't have access to the internet, and it is a sad reality. That's a whole nother discussion for another time, possibly a good topic to maybe talk about. But yeah, it is sad. Some people have it, some people don't. I do like all the companies like Spectrum and things like that offering, especially for teachers to give the free access. But then again, that requires them coming out and installing. So I don't know what happened with those situations, but it is a sad reality. And I know I've spoken to some teachers, actually some parents of kids in certain schools where there was nothing online. It was a bunch of packets. You know, they emailed packets, they had to go pick up packets. And, you know, we all know that, it's more impactful to be in the classroom or at least being engaged, whether it's online via something like this or in front of a teacher. But packets at home, you don't know what's going on. There's no real learning taking place. You know, forgive me if you disagree, but, you know, as an educator for so long, there's got to be some engagement going on. You can't just read something and memorize it. So that put a lot of people at a disadvantage, and who knows what's going to happen when schools start. You know, they talk about the summer slide, right? I'm sure you heard that, Sarah.
Yes,
so
definitely.
It might even be a bigger slide since March. I don't know the exact date offhand. That we got some feedback there. That it started even longer. So we'll only tell what happens when schools actually open up. But
people are calling this the COVID slide now. There's going to be a COVID slide and a summer slide. All right, we just got a new one. Were you going to hit up Ben's?
Yeah, we're going to talk about it. Benjamin said, completely honest, the online only structure didn't work for primary grades, K through, and you're a primary teacher too, so you could probably answer to that. Primary grade educators only saw a handful of their roster from March through now. I feel bad for the little ones. What do you think about that, Sarah?
Yeah, it was hard because they are completely dependent on their caregiver to get them online. And yes, they have some digital independence, but I always kind of think of it too. When I was 6 years old, if my caregiver was my mom and dad at that point. So as a 6-year-old, if my mom and dad hadn't said, you're doing your work, you know, where's your homework? Let's go. We're going to read. What 6-year-old just independently, you know, intrinsically says, I want to do some work today. I want to read, do some math today. So if they don't have a caregiver making them do that, then what our youngest learners, which of them are really going to ask to get online?
Yeah. All right. So let's do this. Let's transition a little bit. I'm going to throw some of these. What we did here is I've got, I literally copied and pasted. We're going to cycle through some statements, some questions that Sarah came up with too that we can talk about. But at the title of the presentation, we talk about the CDC guidelines. So remember, this is just a conversation. So all I did is I copied and pasted straight off the CDC website. And what I'll do is we'll talk about a couple of these. We'll cycle back and forth. But one of the first things that they state, and I'm sure you guys have seen things, obviously, we probably have mostly educators watching now. So I'm sure you saw the people posting things and sharing things on social media about the CDC guidelines. I think they came out like last week. One of the first things, if you go to the CDC website, is they state that recommended. This doesn't mean that your school district is going to do it. And keep in mind that if you're a classroom teacher, whatever state you're at, whatever district you're at, and I have some professors and stuff at universities I work with for some of our courses that former superintendents. And I thought for myself, I'm like, well, if they come up with something as a state, doesn't everybody do it? And the answer is no, that different districts are going to have their certain rules. Yes, some might be similar, but it's up to the school district to implement whatever guidelines they want. So one of the recommended guidelines that the CDC put as number one is that they reduce, obviously, the class sizes. They do small activities, events. Groups of students stay together with the same teacher throughout and across school days, and groups don't mix, and obviously students stay at least 6 feet apart. So I think the best way, Sarah, to kind of talk about this is that let's talk about the different grade levels, because obviously this is going to look different at different levels when we talk about elementary, middle school, and high school. So what do you guys think? So you're in the elementary school system now, Sarah. What do you think when it comes to our K through 5 students? I mean, what do you think this is something that's possible? You know, what are your thoughts?
You know, the first things that pop out of me are if you are staying with the same teacher and groups don't mix, then, you know, a lot of conversation is swirling around. Okay, so then, you know, are we eating lunch in the classroom every day? And then also specials teachers, are they coming to the classrooms? You know, as it is, a lot of schools combine classes for specials. So 2 classes go to music, 2 classes go to art. There aren't enough, you know, when you look at budget, do we, you know, and this is kind of, you know, not to get too far into this, but just, some things that are going to have to be considered are, if before this, there wasn't the budget for one class to go to one special every day, then, what is this going to look like moving forward? And then, what, can I be honest? One thing that I keep swirling my mind around is recess. What would this look like for recess, which is an important part of the day?
Yeah, and I'll kind of jump to that the next one, because I copied and pasted off their website. They talk about that to kind of jump ahead. When it comes to lunch and recess, there is none. They recommend that, for example, lunch, kids have it in the classroom, and I'll put those exact words on the screen here in a second. But yeah, definitely the fact of keeping kids in the same room. When you talk about elementary, that's kind of, with the exception of specials, isn't it safe to say that typically they do stay in the same room for most of the day?
For most of the day.
But when we go to middle school and high school, that's a different ballgame, because you got kids switching classes. If they're on block periods or they're on a 7 or 8 period schedule, you're talking about constant changes. Now the recommendation is that you stay in one room. There is no lunch. You eat lunch in the classroom. And Benjamin had a question here. And to answer your question, Benjamin, it is just a recommendation. So it's kind of like the CDC recommending that everyone wears masks now in public, but it's not a requirement. But certain businesses, like here at the Costco's around my house, I'm sure that's across the country, you can't go in without a face mask. So it's not law, but they make it law for their company. So when it comes to school districts, based on what I've been told from former superintendents, and I could be wrong, but that's what they told me, is that it's going to depend on the school district. So if the district wants to make something a requirement, they're going to do it. They're just recommending, the CDC is recommending certain guidelines to be followed. So that's a great comment or / question, Benjamin. Thanks for sharing. But and he also commented about grade 7 and up. So let's turn the conversation to our middle school and high school students. I mean, do you think that it's easier to do something like this with elementary versus middle and high school, or do you think it's all just a bunch of organized chaos? What do you think?
I mean, I'd love to hear what people in the chat box are, if they can chime in about this, because, I can speak for elementary, but I would love, this would be a great opportunity for someone to share, if they're in secondary ed, what they think this could look like for them. And then I know that's your background too, Dr. A. Do you have any, being a middle school and high school teacher, what do you think?
Honestly, if I taught 10 years in middle school and high school, and I'm trying to do this, and Matt's helping out too. This is the first time, so we're learning. I'm trying to take down the question real fast, because I got the overlay on it. You want to help me out, Matt? There you go, and put up the. There we go. There we go. Right, hold on a second. Thank you, Matt. You're the man. See, I told you we're testing this out. Don't laugh. All right, here we go. So what we do is, as we keep this conversation going, I just want to test something out here. It's going to be really cool, or an epic fail, hopefully on the really cool side. If you want, we want to hear from you too. As we're having this conversation, we're scheduled from 6 to 7. If you have something you want to pop on the video and share, I'd love to know your feedback on this. And you could throw in anything that you experience in your school, something positive. But more importantly, what your thoughts on something like that is going to look like in the school, meaning staying in the same classroom and not transitioning. So we're going to make it real easy while we keep the conversation going. I got our text number on the screen. So if you want to pop in the video, literally text me at that number. I'm going to send you a link. All you have to do is click on the link, and you're going to come into the classroom. So as we keep going, I'm going to keep my phone here, keep paying attention to this. But we'd love someone to be a brave guinea pig. Yeah. We've got a bunch of people watching. So if you want to be a brave guinea pig, go ahead and text that number on the screen while we keep going here. But when it comes to high schools, someone could say, well, 6th grade through 12th grade, they all transition. But we're talking about 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And I taught middle school. And when people ask me, what do I think about middle school? I have a definition for middle school. When people ask me, what's your definition of middle school? I tell them, easy. I'm like, you have a classroom full of kids that some think that they're 5 years old and some think that they're 25. That's my definition. You can laugh, you could argue with me all you want, but I have seen the craziest stuff. If we have any middle school students there, please go ahead and middle school students, middle school teachers, if you agree with me, go put a yep in that comment box, because I taught middle school for 5 years, and that's how I quantify that. it's a little different when we talk about high school students. Are they a little more mature? Some of them. But I really think, my opinion is if we got a yep in there already, that was fast. My opinion is I think high school students would be able to handle a little more if that was the reality. Will it get tiresome after a while? Yeah. If the teacher is not engaging and they're one of those teachers that's kind of like, oh, this is miserable, blah, 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 and the kids feed off that, I think it'll turn into a bad situation. But I think it comes down to the instruction also. I mean, I don't know if you can agree with that too, but if you got an effective teacher in there that's keeping them engaged, keeping them occupied, you know, it's going to be a good environment. But then again, the reality is that they're stuck with you, whoever that teacher is, all day long. Versus middle school, you got hormones raging and all that craziness going on. So I don't know if across the board, I would think that elementary school would be able to deal with that a little better. I don't know what you think about that.
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, because then you are looking at things like certification, and obviously, if somebody is certified, so like I'm certified K-12 reading. So let's say I'm teaching 10th grade ELA. I'm not certified for students to stay with me all day and teach anything else. So are teachers moving classrooms so that there's less people in the hall? Are that,
Yeah, I didn't see that on there. That's a good idea. I don't know if I read through the CDC guidelines. That's a good point, that the kids might stay in the same place, but the teachers rotate.
Right.
Right. So that'd be a good idea. But then again, teachers, I don't know about you, but my classroom is kind of like my home. So if I got to constantly change room, it's kind of like, how do I have some stability?
Right.
So that could be the other side of that.
Yeah, it'll definitely be different. That's for sure.
All right. So nobody's texting me yet. It's okay. I won't hold
Come on, guys. It's fun. We're nice. We promise.
There we go. So let's switch it here. So they also put on there as the guidelines about face coverings, and they recommend that all staff and students, and I put in parentheses there, especially older students, assuming that they mean middle school and up, as feasible. Most essential in times when physical distancing is difficult. So I'm taking that they're going to require or recommend that students wear face masks, especially in the classroom, because the kids are going to be somewhat near each other, right? So, I mean, I don't know what you guys think in the comments. Feel free to share about that. I don't know where you guys live. I'm sure we have people that are not just in Florida who are watching this. Do you find that there are places that require it wherever you go? I mean, I've been places so far where nobody wears anything, and there's some places where everybody is wearing stuff. So when we talk about the school, what do you think, Sarah? What do you think about if a school district requires the kids to wear face masks? What do you guys think about that, the teachers?
Yeah, you know, it's obviously, you know,
Hope you got some feedback there. I think it's okay.
Is that better?
No, I think okay. There we go.
Is that good?
Yeah, perfect. There you go. Perfect.
So, you know, obviously these guidelines are for a reason, and we want to keep everybody on campus safe. So, you know, to kind of pick apart, you know, I don't want this to be like a kind of pick apart and gripe about every single thing and like, would this be hard? Well, sure, all of it's going to be hard. You know, I think that teaching, my most recent background is kindergarten and first grade, and they're fidgety, right? So you kind of think like that it would be hard for them to keep a face covering on. And then I think our youngest learners, our pre-K students and kindergartners coming on campus for the first time, is there trauma involved with, is that scary to see your teacher for the first time and their face is covered? You know, I think if that's what's going to keep everybody safe, everybody will make it work. But, you know, it definitely will have its challenges, but, you know, it's kind of there for a reason.
I mean, can you imagine pretty much, and obviously there'll be times where you could take it off, but can you imagine having to teach for hours at a time wearing that over your face? I mean, it can be, and obviously the kids are a different conversation, but a teacher who is talking and facilitating and students who are talking, doing activities, just that situation of having to sit there, because obviously I don't know the situation yet because no one had to experience this, but going by some of the feedback from some of the teachers, because a lot of you guys who are probably watching know what we do with the Learning Liaisons, but a lot of the teachers, when they opened up the testing centers and went in to take their FTC exams, and they're now required to wear face masks, like all the people complaining to me that they can't focus, they can't even breathe, and they're not talking, and they're sitting at a computer taking a state exam. So you can imagine having to sit there and talk for hours at end. Obviously, you get breaks, but having to communicate like that. So
I mean, that's the first thing I do when I get in my car, because I have been wearing a face mask a lot of places I go, and that's the first thing I do when I get in my car is get that mask off, because it's not very comfortable.
We see Benjamin put the comment on there about the sneeze guards. That's something I noticed when we going into all the stores now, that they call me mean, but I think it's funny. I went into somewhere today, and they had very skinny guard right there, literally probably like maybe 1.5 feet or 2 feet wide. But it's like you stand in here and you stand in here. It's like, where's the protection? But I get the philosophy behind it. But something to think about. And Susanna, I mispronounced your name. I do apologize. She brought in the concept, and we could talk about this a little later. The kind of mixed mode, and Sarah, you could probably have some insight on that. But we could remind me to circle back. But
we'll circle back to it.
I'm getting a voice from here that we need to break for a second to get a word from our sponsor.
Ooh, exciting!
Hold on, we got a word from our sponsor here.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Anderson here with the Learning Liaisons to give you a quick pun from our sponsors over at Pun World. So a sheep, a drum, and a snake fall off a cliff. Back to you, Dr. A.
Oh my Lord. Anyone know who that person is? If you guys are in any of our courses, that's our math director, Anderson. He likes to have fun. Hopefully you guys can hear that. He's the master of the puns there. So
I love Anderson.
He's going to like that if he watches the recording here. So let's flip it here. Let's go to one of these little discussion questions I like here.
Right.
Let's see here. Here we go. So how are you using self-care this summer to prepare for the next year? So this is one of the things you want to talk about, Sarah. First off, before we answer this, can you define in your words for the crowd what you refer to self-care?
Yes, I love this. So self-care is really just what are you doing for yourself to stay healthy? And that could be physical health, mental health, every spiritual health. If you're a spiritual person, it kind of runs the gamut of however you take care of yourself to stay healthy in all areas that are important to you, that impact your day.
So what you as an educator, what do you plan on doing this summer to prepare yourself? Because we don't know what's going to happen yet. I'm sure we'll know probably in another month.
Right. So, we talked earlier about how teachers find the bright side of things, right? And so one of the bright sides of staying home these past couple months has been that I have found more time. I commute about 40 minutes each way to my school. So even just that, all that extra time every day, what I want to carry into summer is what I've been doing these last couple months, which is exercising more. I have been eating healthier because I have the time and the energy to put more into what I'm making. It's not just kind of rushing home and finding, grabbing something on the way home or something, or making something fast that might not be as healthy, and then getting more sleep, all those kinds of things. So reading, I want to carry those into summer because I feel like it's great habits that I've gotten away from. Some with being so busy and having so many hours not at home. So that's kind of been my positive. I've been able to read more fiction at home. Yeah. And Zeus Sinet, hopefully I'm saying it right. So just finding those ways that help me feel relaxed and rejuvenated, energized, and kind of exercising mind and body.
Yeah. And the thing to keep in this is, obviously we have a lot of smart people, intelligent teachers here probably watching now. The thing you have to realize, and obviously we'll learn more as we get deeper into summer, because obviously we know things don't happen immediately, but there will be some guidelines from your school district. If you're a teacher, I'm sure you're going to hear pretty soon about the expectations going back. So it's all about getting in the right mindset, because it's just like anything else in life. If you argue or try to beat a dead horse, there's nothing really going to change about it. unless you're going to change careers, which I really think you're not going to do that, hopefully, because we need you in the classroom. But it's going to be reality. People throw out the phrase the new normal, but if they have to wear a mask for a certain amount of time, or you have to, for example, have smaller class sizes or stay in the same room, it's the reality. So you have to get yourself in the right mindset over the summer, being positive, doing things to keep yourself up and getting ready for that. And more importantly, my recommendation for teachers is probably, and I'm sure you can agree with this, is prepare ahead of time. Think about, you teach your content, whether you're a first year teacher, but you've taught your content before, what your objectives are. Kind of think ahead and think, all right, well, if I have to do it this way, what might it look like, and plan ahead.
Right.
This way, when you go back to school and have the anxiety of, the first week of school and beginning, it's going to be a little less because you're already going to be thinking about it over the summer. Not necessarily talking about putting pen to paper and scripting things out, but just getting your mind ready for the changes that are going to happen and how you're going to cope with that as an educator. Because you also have to keep in mind that I don't care if you teach a kindergarten student or a 12th grade student, they read your feelings and know how you feel and your levels of confidence. So if you come in day one with, you don't even have to say anything negative, just your body language, and they feel like you're not happy with the situation, guess what? No one is. So that's something that, that's the whole social learning aspect of it. They're going to watch you as a role model, whether you believe it or not. So you got to be positive, right? Because we know as educators, it's a performance. You're putting on a show for your kids. You're teaching and you're engaging. So you have to do that in the right way, especially during these times, so they learn from you.
Exactly. And I love the word you used where you were saying, that you really have to kind of plan ahead. And it's really, and to alleviate that anxiety. And it's really all about being proactive instead of reactive, right? And that's what alleviates that anxiety. But I would love to hear from some people in the chat. Tell us, what are you doing for self-care right now in this summer? Is it exercising? Is it having a spa day at home? Are you reading? What are you doing? Let us know.
Yeah, while you guys are typing that one, I like, Elisa, you got some great comments flowing on there. And this is something that we've talked about too here in the office. Everyone talks about, oh, well, cut the number of kids in class in half. And I'm thinking to myself, and I'm sure Sarah, that kind of makes you laugh a little bit. First of all, and if you're from a different state, maybe you don't have a teacher shortage, but that's across the country. If we're trying to find teachers and we're lowering the class size, we're going to need more teachers. Yes, they're talking about mixed mode where some kids are at home certain days, some kids come in, but there's going to be need for more staff members and more teachers. So that's something, obviously, the powers that be will be talking about and trying to kind of come up with solutions to that. But that's definitely a good comment, Lisa.
And you know what, something just to add on to that, Dr. A, is that it'll be interesting to see too how our numbers on campus change by, I'm not a parent, but I've talked to a lot of my neighbors and friends that are wondering, should I have my kids go into even if we go back brick and mortar, right, in the fall, parents considering and caregivers considering, do I want my kids to stay with a digital platform just so I can keep them home and kind of alleviate some of those other variables at school? So, that's meaning more teachers, if fewer kids, but it'll be interesting to see what our numbers look like of kids at school.
And it's interesting you mentioned that because you're in Seminole County. I live. Our office here is in Seminole County, but I live in Orange County, and we have some friends that have kids that are in elementary school. And I didn't know this because I don't work for OCPS, but they sent out, I think 2 weeks ago. I don't know if they did it in your county. If they did it in yours, guys watching, let me know. But some of our friends that are parents got an email survey. And the school, OCPS, Orange County Public Schools here in Central Florida, asked the parents, are you planning on, would you consider homeschooling your kids then? Because they're trying to get a feel for how many students are going to lose. And if it's a lot of students, guess what? That's less money that the school district's going to get because those kids aren't in the classroom.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of things that are at play to take into account. But that shows me, and I can't speak for all the school districts, but that shows me that they're considering that option. And also things like Florida Virtual School, moving kids to that. So there's definitely going to be an impact, whatever happens, I think at least, of numbers of kids that actually go to the brick and mortar schools or parents. And then again, the argument is, well, I would like to do it, but I work. What am I supposed to do? It's been hard the last year. So a lot of different variables that come into play.
For sure.
So what do you got? Yeah, at least, of course, states don't have enough money for that. So let's do this. Let's go to the next one here.
All right.
Let's see here. And someone mentioned this before a little bit. One of the third CDC guideline is that constantly disinfecting things, playground equipment, door handles, stick handles, drinking fountains within the school and on the buses at least daily or between use. So constant cleaning going on. I've seen stuff like, for instance, as an example, the gym that I go to, I don't know if you guys can speak to this too, but I really don't like this COVID thing because I haven't exercised since the beginning of March and I put back a bunch of weight. Can you guys give me a yes if you have experienced that too in the comment box? But I got the email from our gym saying, because they're opening up June 1st, is that they have certain hours where they're going to be open 3 hours, closed an hour, open 2 hours because they're going to clean. During the day, you're not allowed to be in there. So maybe that's something that's going to happen. So it's kind of curious to see what this is going to look like if it happens. Remember, these are recommendations from the CDC. So I don't know about you, kids that you could speak to this because you're a first grade teacher, a kindergarten teacher, Sarah, that little kids touch everything. Maybe not kids as much. They touch each other, but that's another concept. But the elementary school, they're touching everything. So really, what are you going to do? Follow everybody? You know, that's a whole conversation. But I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think that's is that feasible to sit there and constantly being clean and everything and doing everything?
You know, there's a funny saying that is kids don't look with their eyes, they look with their hands. And, it's true. They look by touching and they want to see, how things feel. Are they heavy? Are they light? What does it feel? That's just what they do. And, kind of a twist on this too is, yes, there's going to be the constant cleaning and all of those kinds of things. But, a huge part of kindergarten and first grade is learning those social skills of sharing and taking turns. And, so it'll be and definitely an effort to find creative ways to still have, students learn those social skills when they're not sharing anything because, it's going to be that constant cleaning. And to alleviate some of that cleaning, it's everybody just have your own crayons, your own, no kind of, we call them community supplies, no community supplies, right?
We can't share pencils no more, nothing like that. Yeah. Here's one I was waiting to talk about this because I really want to know what some of our viewers have to say, especially you. And then after this one, we'll go back to some of your discussion questions.
Awesome.
But the first thing I think about is middle school when I think about this. One of the CDC recommendations is that the schools have guides like that you guys have seen in the stores, the tape on the floor and the side signs where kids have to stay in their lane and walk and spacing. Can you imagine like kindergartners or sixth graders having to it's going to take some learning process to go on with this, but having those tracks on the ground that kids have to follow. And I do know some schools that have certain behavior plans around the United States where they do have lines on the floor for kids to follow.
Yeah.
But this is a whole nother ball game here. What do you think about from an elementary standpoint for this?
Well, what's interesting is, the elementary students are typically very accustomed to walking in a line in the hall, right? But what kind of jumps out at me at this is if they still have to remain 6 feet apart. Imagine if you have 22 kids in your class, imagine how long your line is going to be down the hall if every child is 6 feet apart all the way down the hall. Mm-hmm. And so I'm kind of thinking of that monitoring piece of if I kind of try to stay in the middle of my line, right? But if I'm looking up, at the one end of the hall and back to the other end, transitions are going to be have a huge change as well.
So what do you guys think? Is anyone out there I'm going to try this one more time. So is anybody out there go ahead, try it out. Go ahead and text us at that phone number. I'll send you a link. And all you have to do is click on it, pop in the class. I want to know what you guys think about this. What do you think about, especially the classroom teachers out there, starting the school year with spacing tape on the ground, lines, directions? And I thought about this when I read, I don't know if you read this, Sarah, but the news Disney put out their guidelines of when they're going to open up the park. And one of the things I saw, I wish I wrote it down, but they have some term. They're going to have these cast members that are that's right. They call it the social distancing squad. That's what they call it.
Interesting.
And their job is going to be to make sure, guess what, that everybody stays apart, right? So can you imagine that, having a teacher who their duty is to go out in the school when the kids are moving to make sure kids are spaced out and tell people that they have to stay 6 feet apart?
Ben, the phone number is right under us. It's, if you can't see it, it's 407-797-1499. I hope you're asking because you're going to join us.
Yeah, please, Ben.
Come on, Benjamin. Come on down.
So all you have to do is text that number, and what I'm going to do is I'll send you back a link, and you just click on it, and I'll bring you into the back end of our system here, and Matt will plug you into the classroom there for you. But we love to test it out, even if it's just to say hi in a quick couple of words. So I feel like we're pressuring people, but
no, we'd love it though. It'll be fun.
So 407-797-1499.
Yes.
So just text that number and I'll send you a link. So, I mean, what do you think about that, Sarah, having tape on the ground and having teachers making sure kids stay apart? You think that's something that's realistic?
So, okay, if we have tape on the ground and students are walking in a line on the tape, I can see that not being any kind of an issue, stay on the tape. And most elementary students are super compliant with that kind of thing. We walk in line in the hallway and all of that. But I'm more thinking the challenge will be in keeping them 6 feet apart down the line, because if you're moving down the hall, how do you have any kind of space markers that elementary students would understand as far as when the person in front of you is here, you should be here, right? I think that's the tricky part.
All right. So let's transition to another question here. So I don't think we talked about this before, but how can we, as schools and even leadership too, how do we prepare students when they come back to campus with emotional health if there are some of these changes put into play? What do you think, Sarah?
Well, first let's break down emotional health. So when we talk about emotional health, we're saying we want students to feel, think of those first immediate needs that we want them to feel on campus. We want them to feel safe. We want them to feel accepted. We want them to feel excited about learning. And so, having that emotional health re-entering campus is going to require teachers and everybody. It's going to be an all hands on deck kind of a mindset here, where every adult on campus is really going to need to have that checks and balance and kind of accountability in place, to where we're talking to the kids if they come through the lunch line. I don't know if they probably won't have a lunch line anymore, but whenever you're talking to kids on campus, it's doing those checkpoints of how are you, how are you feeling? I can see a lot of journaling. I can see a lot of interactive notebooks where teachers have students they're mentoring, and we're kind of journaling back and forth. But I think having them come back brick and mortar, first and foremost, we're just going to have to be able to have space for them to deal with. And I think this is a question we're going to get to maybe later, but that trauma. Think of everything students are going through right now, as far as parents potentially being out of work, or caregivers out of work, maybe family members that are ill, not being around their friends, not being around their teacher. A lot of kids didn't get the opportunity to say bye to their friends and teacher before we moved into this platform. So I would love to hear from some other people too, but I think really having that safe space where students can kind of have that emotional kind of let it all out.
Do you think it's possible for something like this to start happening over the summer before kids come back to school? Is there something that school districts can do ahead of time to provide families with, I don't know what term you want to use to describe it, but something to help them prepare their kids for coming back to school? I mean, or is it something that's just going to be wham, first day, let's jump into it and see what happens and help kids as they need it?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And I think that something that I've kind of been advocating for is for caregivers to really start those conversations now. About, and this is, tied in that social emotional learning that you mentioned earlier, Dr. A, but, really having those conversations with kids where you're saying every feeling you have is normal and okay. How you deal with it is important. We need to find healthy ways to deal with all these emotions. One thing I shared that my background is reading and literacy. So one thing I always advocate for is finding books and stories and literature that is going to leverage those conversations in the right direction. So finding a book that has to do with maybe worrying or feeling scared or overcoming something, and then using those as conversation points. I think that would be fantastic to happen over the summer.
Yeah, I always think, of the other side of this stuff is it's a sad reality, but maybe there might be teachers when school comes back that they're like, well, I'm here to teach, and maybe they don't have the skills to discuss things or how to interact with students that are having emotional issues with the situation, whatever the situation. Maybe the family lost their job or someone's sick. Are they equipped to be able to do that? I'm sure a lot of teachers are. I'm sure some people don't, and they're wanting to learn how to engage with students and have these conversations. And sadly, I'm sure there's some teachers that are like, well, I'm here to teach, right? They should have other people at school to help kids like that. So I think it's going to be interesting, whatever school looks like when we come back. And we kind of talked about social emotional learning. I know that's one of your passions, Sarah. So this is one of the questions too that we have is, what does SEL look like after COVID? And one of the comments on there mentioned that too. So I'll let you talk about this a little also if you want.
And before I do that, Benjamin is asking for the number again. Benjamin, it's in yellow, right under our screens. But if you can't see it for some reason, I don't know if Matt, maybe you can type it into the live comments or something, if you don't mind, for people that maybe can't see it on the screen. But it's 407-797-1499. Awesome. There we go. It's right there in the chat too. But social emotional learning is such a huge part of school. And you hit on this just, right on the head of the nail when you talked, Dr. A, about how students feed off of what we're putting out too, right? And so the other side of this is teachers are going through trauma as well right now. So maybe teachers have a significant other that have been furloughed or lost a job and have sick loved ones or, whatever. So the trauma of not being with our students and not being able to say goodbye and all of those things. So I think when you can incorporate social emotional learning in the classroom for students and teachers, it builds that bridge of mutual trust and that reciprocity of trust to where I care about you and I'm going to give you grace to learn as we go, but then I'm receiving that as well. And I think after COVID-19, it's going to really level the playing field, and that everybody coming back on campus has a story of something that happened during COVID-19. We'll all have a different story, but we all have a story. So I think that really being able to have a safe place to let those stories out, but then that social emotional learning is going to be for teachers and students. How do we deal with that in a healthy way?
And Ben, big ups to Ben. Ben, I sent you the link. So he agreed to be a guinea pig here for us on our pilot episode here. So listening, Ben, I sent you the link, text message. You just click on it. You should be able to open that on your phone, no problem. And then we just got to let you in the classroom. So once you go ahead and click on that, we'll let you say your piece. One of the other things we can talk about too, while Ben is coming in, I'm sure he can give some thoughts on it. What do you think from an administrator standpoint? What do you think a school leader needs to be aware of? Obviously, it's going to be different circumstances comparing to a classroom teacher. What do you think they need to be aware of or consider when coming back to campus in the fall? What do you think about that?
So it's kind of the concept of go slow to go fast. When you start slow, you can end up going faster in the end instead of just kind of, like a frenzy to get there quickly. And then you end up having to continuously backtrack. So I think starting off slow and just really having that time to rebuild school culture and kind of take that dipstick test on what the climate is of the school. How is everybody feeling? Do we feel safe? Are we ready to move forward? Do we need to spend time just talking about what we've all been through? And then also rebuilding that community, right?
And you brought me another idea. I want to make sure I say this so I don't forget when I watch this and take some notes. Is another episode, it could be to invite some school leaders to talk about how to prepare for. I'd love to get some school leaders on there. So I'll put that on something to add on to the agenda as well. I'm pretty sure that over the summer, there are going to be trainings for school leaders in different districts across the state to prepare them for this aspect, because I really find it hard to believe that whatever school looks like when we come back, that there's not going to be any training going on ahead of time to prepare these leaders and prepare their teachers on some of the potential issues or dilemmas that they're going to face when kids come back to school. I really be very dumbfounded if school opened and there was nothing during the summer for people to get them prepared.
Right.
Yes, will kids come back and have no problems, but like, I'm so happy to be here, let's go? Yeah, of course. But we know that there's going to be kids that are struggling in various different ways, whether it's academic,
Absolutely.
whether it's social, whether it's whatever it is. There's going to be things that teachers on the front lines are going to have to be able to work with students on and understand. And obviously their age comes into play too, because we all know that how you talk to a third grader is very different from a 7th grader or a 12th grader.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So I think Ben, did you renege on your offer there? I sent you the text message. So while he's trying to figure that out, oh, there he is. Oh, we got Ben. There's Ben.
Yeah.
Send him in there for us. Hey, Ben.
Pardon?
How you doing, Ben?
I'm good, and I am completely not used to using my phone in this workspace. In case
you're doing awesome.
In case my out of frame face isn't telling you that.
You look great.
You're awesome. Thank you for joining us. So where do you teach currently?
That's kind of a trick question.
Okay.
Yes, I am working as an independent contractor before I return to the classroom in the fall. I'm actually in line for resource teacher and ESOL teacher positions. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now, so I can finish up my endorsements and get my TESOL certificate.
Okay, awesome.
So are you looking at going into a middle school, like a secondary classroom, or what age range?
I prefer the elementary age range, though.
Okay.
Though I'm not averse to going back to middle schoolers. I've done every single age group.
So Ben, can you tell us if you were in an elementary classroom and we're back brick and mortar on a school campus this fall, what do you think as a classroom teacher in an elementary school would be most important to you to implement in your classroom moving forward?
Will be most important for me to implement, or be most important for the schools to implement for me?
Either.
I think that, well, first, for me, what I need first and foremost is schools to try harder than ever to communicate clearly what they're expecting. Because the educators I've been talking with, a few of them have said that admins basically saying to them, if we do this online, I know this is our first time doing it online, but we expect everyone to work harder next year. So basically, they're saying that admin is going to put more pressure on them than ever next year, since there was no real measurement of performance.
That's like going to a professional development session and the person saying, all right, guys, we know we don't want to be here, but we got to get it done. It's kind of like setting that situation up.
But I love what you said, Ben, about, really making sure that, and thank you again for being brave enough to join us on here. We appreciate it. But those expectations are going to have to be clearer than ever, right? So what are the expectations to keep everybody safe? What are the expectations in the hall, in the classroom, for the teachers, custodians, everybody, right? So you've kind of hit it on the head there, that expectations are going to be huge.
And my main concern is that when teachers get frustrated, because they will, we're going to get frustrated because it's going to be new and we're not going to be used to it. I'm willing to get used to it, but what's going to be hard for me is having to deal with all the teachers who unhealthily vent their frustrations with everything.
Well, and that's why, Dr. A, when he approached me about this topic for tonight, I was so excited because, this is really our effort to kind of spin this in the positive narrative, right? So, we know this is going to be challenging, but we have the question of what are we doing for self-care? How are we making sure that students are going to be taken care of socially and emotionally coming back? Dr. A, is there another question that you wanted to maybe go through as well? Just kind of continuing this positive conversation about how we're going to move forward.
Yeah, Lisa made a good point because we were talking about expectations and being clear and stuff. That Lisa said they need to find out if any faculty or students were affected by COVID-19. So that's something that obviously I'm sure that they're thinking about, because if you have faculty or students that coming in that maybe someone's sick or someone unfortunately passed away, that's a whole nother ball game. People come up. We're not talking about, that's different from the whole wearing face mask and this and that happening in their lives. We're talking about a direct effect from this issue. So that's definitely something that needs to be taken into account too. But
right, and that's actually become something that I've cared about a lot over the last half decade. Okay, I've only been teaching for a decade, so that's
a long time.
I can't really say I'm an authority on any of these things, but something I've just noticed overall is that even before all this is that teachers have a really hard time taking care of themselves, and someone needs to be in every school to advocate for that. That's something that I really want to try to push whatever I can when I'm in, based on whatever school I return to. I mean, I as one person can only do so much to advocate.
That's a great point. And, I think that, making sure that we are taking care of ourselves and encouraging others to too on our campuses is going to be good. But those were some great points. Thanks, Ben.
I appreciate you spending time with us, Ben. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much for being our first person to pop in the video. Big kudos to you, man. You have a good night.
Thank you for putting up with my crooked angle.
You're good. You're good.
Great, Ben. Thank you for joining us. That was awesome.
So we're approaching our end time, quote unquote. Obviously, we don't mind going over a couple minutes, but do you have any closing remarks, Sarah, you want to share with people? Some of the things that maybe pointed out to you tonight that kind of stuck out?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you again so much for having me on as your special guest tonight, Dr. A. This was so exciting. And I think that, just being part of these conversations is going to be huge, because the more we share ideas with each other and encourage each other to find the positive spin in all this, it's going to continue to just elevate what we're putting out to our students as well. So one last thing I want to share is I had a book that I actually wanted to plug. Something that I think that would be great for, we talked about some of us as self-care or reading over the summer. There's a book that I have just really, really enjoyed. And I think more than ever, this is an important topic. The book is called, I'm going to show you the cover in just a second. I'm going to read it first. The book is called Fostering Resilient Learners, Strategies for Creating a Trauma-Sensitive Classroom. This is written by Kristen Sowers and Pete Hall, no relation to me, but a really great book. So here's the cover. Let's see if I can kind of frame it well.
Okay. That's
so
perfect.
If anybody wants to check that out, again, it's Fostering Resilient Learners, Strategies for Creating a Trauma-Sensitive Classroom. And I think anything we can do, that book, any other book, it's just a book that I've enjoyed, but anything we can do to come back with our students, whether it's digitally or face-to-face, but understanding the trauma that potentially some of our students have been through, and then how to really give them that safe space to move forward in a healthy way is going to be huge. Awesome. Oh, Lisa, have you read it? She said, great book. Have you read it, Lisa? That's awesome.
All right. Well, thank you. I respect everyone's time here. So we're going to slowly wrap this up. I want to thank you, Sarah, for spending time with me here and sharing your insight with all the teachers watching, and especially those who are watching this recording. It's going to be on our YouTube channel as well. And we're going to start a podcast with these also, so you can keep these with you. So we're going to be doing this every Monday night at 6 p.m. So thank you, Sarah. All right. So you have a good night.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed.
Oops, sorry, I just bumped her out. Sorry, Sarah, if you hear me, I prematurely clicked that, so I do apologize. But before we sign off here, what we're going to do, our first episode, this was our pilot episode. I want to thank you guys for joining us for our teachers out there, all the episodes that we're going to be doing, they're not going to be certification based. That's what we do here at the Learning Liaisons. They're going to be education based. So next week, our first quote unquote episode is going to be featuring about certification. We brought on teacher certification expert to our team here, Ms. Lisa Raymer, formerly of Teachers of Tomorrow. And we're going to be talking about the teacher certification process. And you guys are going to be able to ask questions. So I know I loosely sent this out to the groups in our group, so I applaud all the people who are watching. We might have got some random people popping in and out. So next week is going to be about how to become a teacher. For our upcoming episodes, I'm going to go ahead and post that on our Facebook page. So if you are not a fan of our Facebook page, it's fine. Search the Learning Liaisons. And we're going to post a link to our upcoming episodes. We have everything planned out until the second week of August. We got some Teachers of the Year coming on. We've got some consultants, national bullying experts. We've got Lisa next week. So we're going to post a link to all of the upcoming events. And I'll leave you with this. And I love to see your comments in the box before we sign off. I really want to know what we can do here at the Learning Liaisons on the Deets with Dr. A show to provide you moving forward. Are there any certain topics that you would like us to cover? You can go ahead and I'll give you a couple of seconds to put those in a box, so feel free to post those on our Facebook page at the Learning Liaisons. So I want to thank you guys here for joining us here on our pilot session. I'm going to go ahead and take this down off the screen. Like I said, we're learning all this stuff. This is the first time. So Dr. A here, Deets with Dr. A. I want to thank you guys for joining us. Whether you watch live or you're watching this recording, feel free on the bottom of the YouTube video to post your comments, concerns, or questions. And we'd love to know what topics you want us to discuss, because every week we're going to bring on some new guests, talk about everything education. We have principals on the docket coming up. We've got, like I said, consultants, Teachers of the Year, people around the country. So we're here to provide as much value and information that we can for you. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. We will talk to you soon. Any questions, let us know. You can message us through our website, but stay tuned on Monday. And please, take a snapshot of this screen, post it on your social media, let people know that what we're offering here every Monday, because this is really going to be a new movement towards professional development, everything education, every Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Dr. A signing off, and you guys have a great rest of your night, and we'll talk to you soon.